If you're an Alabama fan or even just a college football fan in general, you remember this guy, A.J. McCarron. I've always felt like he was severely underrated, and in my humble opinion, he's a top 3 Alabama quarterback of all time. I haven't really sat down and analyzed it, but number 1 for me, I gotta go with Bryce Young. Number 2, I'd say A.J. McCarron, and number 3, I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa. A.J. McCarron was simply that good at Alabama. Oh yeah, by the way, for those of you that don't know, he has not 1, not 2, but 3 national championship rings. He would have had 4 if it wasn't for Chris Davis, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Anyways, getting back on track here, everybody remembers McCarron for being a quote-unquote game manager. That's where the term really originated. He was the poster child for game manager, and the way people used it, to me, it was slightly disrespectful. For me, whenever I say game manager, I always mean that as a compliment, and that's how it should be. I don't want to sound too corny when I say this, but it means you're in 100% control of the game. It also means you rarely, if ever, make mistakes, and whenever your team needs you to step up and make a big-time throw, you're going to make it. I can't speak for you, but for myself, that's how I remember him. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in Alabama history, had a great arm, and oh yeah, by the way, he never had more than 7 interceptions in a season. For all the people that are going to sit up here and say, oh, well, he just handed the ball off to Trent Richardson and Mark Ingram, Matt, that's nothing special. Do you know he finished second in the Heisman voting in 2013? Second! So to me, that's an extremely flawed argument. We'll touch more on that later in this video. The reason I have decided to make this video isn't to talk about all the off-the-field stuff and what happened to him after football, because most of us already know. He didn't get any crazy trouble off the field. It's not anything like that. So if you're here for the drama, probably not the video for you. But, and I have an enormously large big but, what we are here to talk about is why didn't he succeed after college? Not only do I find his story really fascinating, I found it quite strange. He got opportunities in the NFL, did good in those opportunities, but yet teams didn't care. Let me put this into a better perspective. Imagine having an NBA tryout, or you go to like a summer league event, drop 40 points, and they never hit your line back. They don't text you or anything. Leaves you wondering, right? Another thing we're going to be discussing and talking about is he fell in the NFL draft, apparently because teams out there thought he was too cocky. If you kept up with McCarron as much as I did growing up, that is not a word you heard thrown around when talking about him. Cocky. If that caught you off guard, trust me, when I was doing the research for this video, it caught me off guard as well. With all that being said, and without further ado, let's just get straight into this. McCarron would arrive on a campus in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 2009, where he would redshirt and win a national championship. If you don't know who the quarterback was that season, that was good old Greg McElroy. We all know what McElroy's up to. He's an announcer, broadcaster, whatever you want to call him. McCarron wouldn't even see action until his redshirt freshman year, which was 2010. In 13 games played, all garbage time, completed 63% of his passes and had 3 touchdowns and 0 INTs. It wasn't until 2011 where McCarron would take over as a starting quarterback, and he wouldn't look back. He led Alabama to a national championship, completed 67% of his passes, had 2,600 passing yards, 16 touchdowns to only 5 INTs. Took great care of the ball. That was the year where Alabama, they got the revenge on LSU in the championship. In 2012, this is where Alabama would obliterate, and I mean obliterate, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. By the way, that was one of the craziest college football years of all time. For Alabama to even make it to a championship that year, it was unprecedented. Heading into the final week, Alabama needed 3 to 4 teams to lose, and I think one of those including, Oklahoma State. Who wound up beating Oklahoma State that year? Wasn't it Iowa State? I think it was. Hey, shout out to the Cowboys for losing. That's all I'm going to say. And you want to talk about the butterfly effect. If Oklahoma State does not lose that game, Alabama doesn't even make it to a championship. But Alabama, they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, where Georgia catches that pass short of the goal line, time runs out. Play Notre Dame, and we know what happens next. McCarron wins his second straight championship as Alabama quarterback. He completed 67% of his passes, had nearly 3,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns. One of the best touchdowns to interception ratios you're ever going to see. 3 interceptions. 30-3. Flawless almost. And heck, I'd argue and say that his 2012 season was just as good, if not better, than his 2013 season, the year he finished second in the Heisman voting. I digress. Continuing along with our story, he would come back for his senior year in 2013, and I believe, till this day, this is the best Alabama team of all time. Why is that ironic to some people? Because they didn't even win a championship. They blew out everybody that year, except for Auburn, where Alabama's field goal kicker cost them the game, and then you had the whole kick six. And I'm not just talking about that last play costing the game. Alabama's other kicker missed like 4 field goals. If you know, you know. I'm not going to talk about it. We all know what happened in the kick six. Alabama loses that game, therefore they don't make it to the national championship. The Cinnamon Rolls, they beat Auburn that year, but McCarron, stellar season. Carbon copy paste of 2012, completed 67.3% of his passes to be exact, 3,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns to 7 INTs. What a career. 77 touchdowns to only 15 interceptions. And I remember watching McCarron throw a couple interceptions that year, and I was like, dude, you need to start taking care of the ball. It's crazy to think about because 7 interceptions really is nothing. Here's where things start to get exciting, though, in our story. Heading into the NFL draft, he wasn't supposed to be a first-round pick, not even a second-round pick. Most people predicted him to be 3rd, 4th round, around that area. He wound up falling all the way down to the 5th round with the 164th overall pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. It wasn't the end of the world. It's not like he went from a first-round pick to a 6th-round pick, but it definitely left some people scratching their heads. People were asking questions. They were trying to figure it out. Why did McCarron slip in the draft? Then, some reports started coming out stating that McCarron was quote-unquote cocky in his meetings and interviews with teams. Here's what McCarron had to say about it, and I quote, "It stinks that it hurt me like that, but at the same time, I feel like God had a plan. Everything's going to work itself out. I'm happy, and hopefully at the end of the day, I'll get the last laugh," referring to the people saying he was cocky. I'm going to read this off word for word as well. ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter suggested on Saturday morning that McCarron's slide may have stemmed from bad meetings with team executives who felt he rubbed them the wrong way during the pre-draft process. NFL Network reported that some were bugged by how cocky they felt McCarron came off. Schefter said, and I quote, "He was critical of other people." Here's what McCarron had to say to follow that up. "I guess when teams met with me, they wanted me to say I'll be a 3rd-round guy and a mediocre quarterback. Maybe I was too honest or something. I'm an honest person and I say what I feel. That's how I feel about my play. If that turns the team off, then at the end of the day, to me, they didn't really want you. I was myself." This happened 11 years ago, and it's another reason why these videos are so cool to make, at least for me, because you find out so much information that you didn't know back then, and I most certainly did not know this. Let me know what y'all think about it, and although we don't know what questions exactly these teams were asking them, you don't get to be a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together. They were probably asking them stuff like, "Oh, well, what do you think your role is going to be?" And McCarron's like, "Hey, I'm coming in and I'm looking to be competing for a starting job." And teams, they probably didn't like that because they didn't view McCarron as a starter. But at the end of the day, I can't fault McCarron for believing in himself and his abilities, because this is a guy who won 3 national championships at Alabama, 2 as a starting quarterback, and finished 2nd in the Heisman voting and put up great numbers. And we could sit up here for the next 5 to 10 minutes talk about this. Bottom line is, he slid in the draft. In the 2014 season, he would not play. But in the 2015 season, not only did he play, he started 3 games and went 2-1. Due to Andy Dalton suffering an injury, McCarron, he was the next man up, and in his first career start, he won. Not a bad first start if you gotta ask me. He went 15 for 21, had nearly 200 passing yards and a touchdown. To finish the regular season that year, he had 160 passing yards and 2 touchdowns against the Ravens. But heading into 2016, he would return to his backup role where he didn't play at all. In 2017, still primarily the backup, didn't play. Heading into 2018 as a free agent, he would sign with the Buffalo Bills, but would then be traded to the Oakland Raiders. He was a backup quarterback for them, and in March of 2019, he would be released. In the same month of March, in the same year, 2019, he signed with the Houston Texans. Played in a couple games for them, nothing worth talking about. And in April of 2021, he would sign with the Atlanta Falcons. For the Falcons, he tore his ACL in the preseason and got placed on the season-ending injury reserve list, which meant that year was donezo's, and that was the end of his NFL career before he would join the St. Louis Battlehawks. And this is almost like chapter 2 to A.J. McCarron's career, because it felt like a whole different movie and story. But one thing I do want to touch on is when he signed with the Bills, he was actually competing for that starting quarterback spot. Because at the time, Josh Allen was just a rookie, and the other quarterback he was competing with was Nathan Peterman. And with the Bills, guess what? Before they wound up trading him, he suffered another injury. Look, I'm not saying A.J. McCarron be the starting quarterback for the Bills currently if he didn't get hurt, but you never know. If he goes out there, balls out, beats out Josh Allen, who knows what could have happened. The butterfly effect. After he recovered from that torn ACL with the Falcons, he was like, all right, I actually want to play. I don't just want to be a backup in the NFL. So he took a major pay cut and signed with the Battlehawks. This is a team in the XFL, and McCarron was clear about this. He stated it in multiple interviews and podcasts that, yeah, he took a pay cut, but he just wanted to play football. He wanted his kids to see him play as a starting quarterback. If you got to ask me, it turned out to be a great decision. And for the Battlehawks, he was a star. He completed 69% of his passes, had 2,150 passing yards, 24 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Similar numbers, if you remember, to what he put up at Alabama. Completion percentage around 67, 68. Touchdown interception ratio, fantastic. You can't forget to mention in the final game of the regular season that year, he went 28 of 35, had 420 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. With him performing so well in the XFL, he was back on the radar of all these NFL teams. He wound up re-signing with the team who drafted him, the Cincinnati Bengals, in September of 2023. Of course, they had Joe Burrow, so it's not like McCarron was going to come in and save the day or anything like that, but he went back to the league, and I would assume this was a money situation, because even if you're a backup quarterback in the NFL, you're going to make more than the starter in the XFL, because when he was with the Battlehawks, he was only making, it was somewhere around $150K to $200K a year. That second stint with the Bengals, there's not anything to talk about because, well, he didn't play. Ironically enough, he would return back to the St. Louis Battlehawks, and there was a wee bit of controversy. McCarron was doing McCarron things, putting up his typical numbers, completed 64% of his passes, had 1,500 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and only 4 INTs. It is worth noting that McCarron, he was dealing with an injury that season. And next thing you know, and I remember getting the ESPN announcement about this, the Battlehawks, they say, yeah, we're done with McCarron. We're releasing him. Everybody's like, wait a minute, what? Reminder, this is one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the XFL at the time. Didn't make any sense, right? But apparently, there was some big drama going on behind the scenes with McCarron and the people running this thing. The reason the situation was so fishy is because, and McCarron has attested to this, it was supposed to be a mutual agreement, a mutual departure. Let me explain. McCarron was already telling them he was thinking about retirement, but he wanted to come out and make that announcement, not hear about it randomly out of thin air. And that's what was so crazy about it, is because McCarron didn't even know he was getting released until he got released. This move by the Battlehawks actually pissed off McCarron so bad, he wanted to join one of their rivals, that way he could play them twice a year and beat them. And he was going to sign with the Brahmas, but according to reports, it got vetoed. I just realized I said about a minute ago McCarron was already thinking about retiring. That's wrong, my apologies. Him and the Battlehawks were talking about his departure, not retiring. Here's what McCarron had to say about this incident, and I quote, "I'm talking to other teams to see if it's a good fit. If there's any way possible, I want to come back with a vengeance, and I want to face them twice. I want to go to somebody that faces them twice a year and put it on them. We'll see if it ends up being a fit and if it ends up working out, but I just felt like it wasn't done the right way." Absolutely love the city of St. Louis. Unbelievable people, the love for football, the passion, the way they treated my family, everybody in the organization from every coach I got to deal with. I truly had an unbelievable time. The fans were unreal, some of the best, literally, in the country. It's sad that the NFL got taken away from them because that city, whether it's hockey, soccer now, baseball at the Cards, it's unbelievable passion there. I knew we were going to part ways. It's one of those things you could just feel at the end of the last season. From a coaching style, environment, everything, it was just different. So I knew we were probably going to end up parting ways. I hadn't heard anything, so what it came down to is I had multiple coaches that I know in the league that I have respect for. They have respect for me, reach out multiple times. This was probably 2 months ago, a month ago. Hey, word is they're going to start gearing up to try to trade you out in St. Louis. And I told these coaches, well, I'm not going to be traded. I'm not going to let them decide where I go. If that's the case, I'll just refuse it. And it kind of died down. And then I had even more coaches reach back out to me about 2 weeks ago and say, hey, word is it's about to start as we get closer to January, when everything starts gearing up for the UFL. Here's what McCarron had to say about his phone call with the Battlehawks. He said, listen, it's not performance-based by any means. I still think you're the best quarterback in the league. I appreciate everything you've done. And I thanked him for all the things we had as a team and all that. And he said, we're going to part ways and go a different route. Yeah, that's understandable. Or he said, and I said, yeah, that's understandable. It's part of the business. I'm going to save y'all 30 minutes of reading. Your boy Matt already did it. Long story short, they told McCarron, hey, we're not going to screw you over. And long story short, they screwed him over. Like I said earlier, it was supposed to be a mutual departure. Then they come out like, oh, no, we're releasing you. And that is what I'm going to label as, unless something crazy happens, the official end of A.J. McCarron's professional football career. It really sucks he had to go into the way he did, and if you're wondering what he's up to now, I'm sure most of you already know this, he has a great podcast. I've always believed this, though. If he would have got put in the right situation and been given the right opportunity, not in the XFL, but in the NFL, he could have been a starter in that league. No doubt about it in my mind. Even when he did start with the Bengals in his second year there, he went 2-1 and had 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. That's insanely good. Most quarterbacks in the first couple starts have 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I don't know what it was. For some odd reason, these NFL teams just never viewed McCarron as a legit starter in this league. It's why his career and story is so strange to me, and it's a big what if, because you could have the argument and say, well, maybe he doesn't perform well in practice, Matt. Maybe he throws 5 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. And that's a good rebuttal, but here's my rebuttal to that. I strongly disagree with that because, number one, he went out there in Cincinnati and did good in the time he was given. And number two, look at his numbers in the XFL. Similar to what he did at Bama. I get it, it's not the craziest competition, but if you can play, you can play. And McCarron can play. Here's where I'm going with all this. I would have liked to see him get, I'm not even going to say a full entire year being the starter, at least 8 to 10 games. But it never happened. It is what it is. We can't change it. As far as it goes for like what's next for him, he's big chilling. He made a bunch of money. He's got the podcast like we already talked about. Got a great family. He's doing okay. To AJ McCarron, if you're somehow somebody seeing this video, my brother, wishing him best of luck. Hope you continue to see a lot of success. Thank you for all the memories as the Alabama quarterback. And yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts down below. But